So you still think loud pipes save lives? Or maybe you still think bigger bikes make you safer? Or that racing teaches you how to ride on the street? Yeah, if you still think some of these things, then buckle up, champ, because we're just getting started. All right, so you saw part one. You learned that loud pipes don't make you faster, that idling your fuel-injected bike for 10 minutes is just wasting gas, and maybe you started to rethink that whole laying the bike down nonsense. You didn't see part one? Dude, it's right there. And if you haven't seen part one, don't worry, this video stands on its own. Because the myths that we're tackling today, these are the ones that hang around like bad exhaust fumes. They sound confident, they sound reasonable, and they still get repeated by people who really should know better. I mean, we're going after the big dogs like loud pipes save lives, why ABS and traction control do not make you soft, and the myth that women can't handle big bikes, because spoiler alert, they can. And a few others that might ruffle some feathers. Some of these are funny, I hope, but some of these are downright dangerous. But all of them are worth busting. So if you want to ride smarter and avoid rookie mistakes that even still experienced riders sometimes make, and maybe have a laugh or two along the way, you're in the right place. So let's kick this off with one that gets the most noise, literally. All right, this one's the boogeyman of biker beliefs. It's painted on t-shirts, it gets stitched into patches, and shouted like gospel at every bike night across America. Loud pipes save lives. Now, I know this one's gonna ruffle some feathers because we mentioned this one in a recent video about controversial biker opinions, and let's just say people throw a lot of cope into justifying this one. But hang tight, because we're not here to disrespect anyone. We're here to talk about what actually works. And long story short, I'm sorry to tell you, volume is not your best visibility tool. Let's break this down. First off, sound is directional. And I can already hear you keyboard warriors typing away frantically that this guy doesn't know how sound works. Sound is omnidirectional. But here's the thing. Yes, lower frequencies do spread omnidirectional, but are very difficult for humans to localize. That means people may sense that low rumble, but they don't know where it's coming from. And I know you've seen this, like when you pull up to a red light and people start looking around in their cars trying to figure out where the heck that motorcycle sound's coming from. The wavelengths that people use for directional location, however, those are influenced by the geometry of the tailpipe. They project in the direction the exhaust is pointing, just like how a trumpet works. And when a motorcycle moves forward, the slipstream effect further pushes that directional exhaust noise backwards. The omnidirectional portion of an exhaust note does exist, sure, and maybe even some benefit to pedestrians or in stopped traffic. But in moving traffic, especially traffic coming from in front of you, it's simply not a reliable tool. And even if the sound could reach those cagers, most modern cars are soundproof like padded isolation chambers. They've got double sealed windows, noise canceling cabins, touchscreen sound systems and subwoofers, and drivers who are often more focused on TikTok than taillights. Now don't get me wrong, loud pipes are not useless, especially in slower moving traffic like we mentioned, or for pedestrians. Or if someone's cutting you off in your lane, a quick throttle blip might just wake them up. But if your master safety plan involves being heard before you're seen, you're trusting your life to someone else's bad taste in music or whatever extent they happen to have their windows rolled down. That's not a strategy, that's just wishful thinking. Now let's talk about what actually improves your visibility, like bright contrasting gear, or headlight modulators, proper lane positioning, or strategic movement within traffic because motion draws attention. Even reflective tape on your helmet, jacket, or saddlebags, that's a pretty good measure. These are things that you can actually control, and they do actually get noticed. And look, I'm not anti-loud pipes. I've ridden them, I own them, and they sound amazing, and they add character. And hey, they might even make that texting teenager in the car next to you flinch a little bit, which is always fun. But don't confuse that intimidation with safety. If sound alone saved lives, then every crash report would say the motorcycle collided with the SUV despite being very loud. The fact is, pretty much every major safety organization has reached the same conclusion. Your pipes can bark as loud as they want, but they're not going to stop a left turner listening to a Spotify playlist with zero spatial awareness. So if you want to ride smart, be sane, be smart, be strategic, and save the noise for character appeal, not as your only line of defense. All right, let's try one with a little bit of nuance. How about sport bikes are always faster than cruisers? And sure, on paper, that may check out. Most sport bikes have higher horsepower, lighter weight, and better power to weight ratios. They're built for acceleration. They've got high revving engines and aerodynamics that slices through corners. If we're talking top speed or track performance, yeah, no contest. That R1 or ZX-10R will leave a bagger wheezing in its mirrors. But here's where the myth gets a little muddy. What do you mean by faster? Because in the real world, stoplight to stoplight, twisty back roads, highway merges, what feels fast and what is fast can be two totally different things. Let's talk torque. Most cruisers, especially big V-twins, they make their torque way down low, like under 3,000 RPM. That means they can launch hard from a dead stop without revving the engine to the moon. And some of these bikes even have surprising high-end speed too. We're talking the Ducati XDFL, the Sportster S, the Scout Bobber, and even some of the Harley M8 CVO series. These can all absolutely surprise you when the light turns green. Now sure, once the RPMs climb and the straights stretch out, a sport bike's gonna walk right past you. But in regular traffic, in first gear, that cruiser's low-end grunt is doing some serious work. Plus, most riders are not even using half of the performance that their bike is capable of. Sport bike might be able to hit 170 miles per hour, but when's the last time you actually rode it past 90 and held it there? And be careful of self-incrimination here. So no, sport bikes aren't always faster. They're potentially faster. But in real-world riding, that's not always the whole story. And fast doesn't always mean better either. A well-ridden cruiser can leave an overconfident sport bike in the dust in the corners or off the line or on any road where torque, control, and confidence matter more than just top-end bragging rights. I'm sure I'm going to get some "are you crazy" comments on this one, but fast isn't just about what's in the spec sheet. It's also about how you ride it. Now this one comes with opinions, and a lot of them. And it usually goes something like this. Helmet laws are government overreach. Or it's my body, it's my choice. We're all familiar with that one. Or how about just freedom, baby? And look, like I said, I'm not here to disrespect anybody or pick a fight. I believe in personal responsibility. And if your state says it's your choice, then it's your choice. You won't catch me calling the helmet police. But here's the thing. Freedom without information isn't freedom, it's a gamble. And if you're choosing not to wear a helmet because somebody told you it doesn't matter, or that helmets kill more people than they save, then you've been sold a myth. Let's look at the facts. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, helmets reduce the risk of death by 42%, and they reduce the risk of head injury by 69%. And in states that repealed helmet laws, motorcycle fatalities went up. In some cases, way up. I'm looking at you, Florida. Now I get it. There's something undeniably freeing about the wind in your face. But there's also something undeniably sobering about the cost of a traumatic brain injury. Or watching a buddy suffer through months of rehab because his freedom didn't come with a chin strap. And let's be honest, nobody plans to crash. But you also don't wear a seatbelt because you plan to crash. You wear it because you might. Same with helmets. If your argument is that it's your choice, fine. But make an informed one. Not one based on myth or ego or some Facebook post you read back in 2019. You're free to ride without a helmet, but you're also free to ride with one and give yourself a better shot at riding again tomorrow. All right, let's talk chains. A lot of new riders hear this one early on. Don't get a chain-driven bike. They're a maintenance nightmare. And yeah, they can be, if you completely ignore them, but so can your brakes, and so can your tires, and so can your entire motorcycle. Here's the truth. Modern motorcycle chains, especially O-ring and X-ring chains, they're way more reliable than the crusty old setups from 30 years ago. They're sealed, self-lubricating on the inside, and they hold up surprisingly well under regular use. So in this case, what does maintenance really mean? Well, it means every few hundred miles, or after a wet or dirty ride, you want to wipe it down. You want to lube it with chain-specific spray. Check the tension and the alignment, maybe adjust it with a wrench if it's gotten some slack. All told, we're talking maybe 10 to 15 minutes of attention every couple of rides. That's it. Compare that to a belt drive, which can be damaged by rocks or debris and cost a lot to replace, or a shaft drive, which is low maintenance, but it's heavy, more expensive, and a pain to service when it does need work. By comparison, chains are cheaper, lighter, easier to modify gearing with, and widely supported. And if you're doing any kind of sport or dual sport riding, chains are the norm for a reason. Now look, I'm not saying chains are perfect. They'll stretch over time, and they'll wear out eventually. But so will your tires, and your oil, and your patience for dealership labor costs. This myth usually comes from people who never learned how to care for a chain or never bothered to. And full disclosure here, terrible chain maintenance once caused me to have a catastrophic crash. You can check it out. But if you can shake a spray can and turn a bolt, you can maintain the chain. And if not, then my friend, maybe motorcycles aren't your thing. Let's talk touring and the myth that gets people stuck before they even leave their own zip code. You need a big engine to tour because bigger CCs is better for longer rides. Nope. What you need for touring is comfort, not compression ratio, not a liter of displacement, and not bragging rights at the rest stop. You can tour on anything, really. I've seen people go long distance on Groms or Ninja 300s or old dual sports held together by zip ties and a lot of hope. So what makes a good touring bike? Let's list it out. Definitely a comfortable seat, a riding position that doesn't destroy your knees, wrists, or spine. How about some decent wind protection? And a fuel range that you can live with. Plus a suspension that doesn't shake your fillings loose when you're hitting rough pavement. That's really it. That's the touring formula. I mean, bigger engines can help, especially if you're riding 2-up or hauling a bunch of luggage or want to cruise at 85 miles an hour all day. But a massive V-twin or leader bike isn't automatically better. In fact, sometimes it's worse. Big engines can be hot and vibrate like a paint mixer. Heavier bikes are tiring in traffic and on the twisties. And high-revving leader bikes, they might be fast, but they'll leave you folded in half like a lawn chair. A lightweight 500 or 650cc standard bike with a comfy seat and soft bags, that could take you coast to coast with far less fatigue. And your wallet will thank you too. And smaller bikes mean less gas burned, lower insurance rates, cheaper tires, and probably less speeding tickets. So before you rush into something massive and heavy, ask yourself this. Do I want to actually tour or just look like I could? The best touring bike isn't always the biggest one. It's the one you'll still feel good riding on day 3. Okay, this one's a twofer, and it comes with a lot of chest puffing. Track days will make you a better street rider, or worse, you gotta learn to ride fast before you can ride safe. And here's the thing, there is some truth in it, but there's also a big, fat, juicy myth hiding right in plain sight. Yes, riding on the track can teach you valuable skills. Better throttle control, improved body positioning, smooth inputs, and what it feels like to approach your traction limits. But what it doesn't do is teach you how to ride safely in traffic, or in the rain, or on unpredictable streets, surrounded by people who think blinkers are optional and phone scrolling is a driving aid. Street driving is a whole different beast. You deal with gravel in blind corners, deers crossing at dusk, tailgaters and SUVs, distracted drivers, and stoplights, not checkered flags. Track riding teaches you how to go fast safely in a controlled environment. Street riding demands you go smartly in a chaotic one. In fact, some of the habits that keep you alive on the track, like late braking or aggressive body positioning, can actually get you in trouble out on the street. Riding is about context. Track riders train for apexes and lap times. Street riders need to train for survival. If you want to improve your street riding, take a class like MSF's Advanced Riding course. Practice slow speed control. Learn to scan traffic and manage risk and read the road like a chessboard, not a racetrack. Track skills are awesome if you're on the track, but also knowing when not to twist the throttle might save your skin. All right, let's get one thing straight before we go any further. Horsepower does not care about your gender. Torque does not care about your pronouns. And physics, it plays no favorites. So the myth that women can't handle big bikes, it's not just wrong, it's tired, lazy, and more than a little bit sexist. Yes, most women do tend to be shorter and lighter than most men. That's just biology. But let me ask you something. When's the last time you picked your bike up and carried it around? Because I'm pretty sure even you aren't muscling up your 800-pound bagger with brute force. You're using balance, leverage, and technique. And guess what? Those are learned skills, not genetic advantages. Plenty of women out there are riding touring bikes, cruisers, ADV monsters, tearing it up on dirt trails, racing on tracks, crossing continents on two wheels. The difference isn't gender, it's confidence, experience, and proper fit. A tall guy on a poorly fitted bike is just as awkward as a petite rider on something too heavy or top heavy. Motorcycle control is about ergonomics, a proper rider triangle, foot reach, balancing at low speed, and knowing how to use the clutch, throttle, and brakes like an orchestra conductor, not a bouncer at a bar. Oh, and fun fact, female motorcycle ownership is now at an all-time high in the States, around 22% and growing every year. So if your opinion about what women can or can't ride hasn't evolved since Easy Rider came out, maybe it's time to trade in that old mindset. If she wants to ride it, she'll ride it. And odds are, she'll ride it better than the guy who told her she couldn't. Ah yes, nothing says I'm insecure about technology better than this little gem. If your bike has ABS or traction control, you're not a real rider. Look, I love the idea that you're one with your machine. Feeling the road, total control, all of that. But let me ask you something. When exactly did being real mean turning down safety that works? Let's talk facts. The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety and National Highway Traffic Safety Administration found that motorcycles with ABS are involved in 31% fewer fatal crashes. That's not marketing, that's hard data. ABS doesn't replace your skill, it just backs it up when you screw up, when you're distracted, or a car cuts you off, or you panic brake on gravel or a wet road. Guess what? ABS might just save your bike and your skin. Same goes for traction control. It's not a cheat code, it's a safety net. You ever hit an unexpected patch of sand in a corner and feel that back wheel twitch? Traction control keeps that moment from turning into a 40-mile-an-hour slide into a mailbox. Now here's the kicker. Most high-performance bikes today, they come with Rider Aid stock. MotoGP or World Superbike, they run traction control, cornering ABS, wheelie control, the works. You gonna tell me those guys aren't real riders? Being a real rider isn't about how many knobs you turn off on your dash. It's about understanding the machine beneath you, riding within your limits, and making it home alive. If tech helps you with that, learn it, use it, appreciate it. Real riders evolve, and they ride again tomorrow. All right, well, I don't know about you guys, but I thought that was fun. 8 more myths busted, or at least challenged. And maybe we even exposed some long-held nonsense that you didn't know you still believed. And look, if one of these myths was something you swore by, hey, we all been there. That's part of the ride. Motorcycling is full of lots of traditions, lots of opinions, and enough ego to fill a saddlebag. Twice. But the truth is, the more we question, the more we learn. And the more we learn, the better riders we become. Whether it's loud pipes, or chain drives, or your opinion on rider aids, if we don't evolve, we're just clinging to old stories while the rest of the world moves on. And if that makes me less of a biker, that's cool. I'll be the one riding safely past you when your beanie helm flies off at 70 miles an hour. All right, if you like this video, don't forget part 1 is waiting for you if you happen to have missed it. And drop your favorite riding myth in the comments below, especially ones that we didn't cover. Because I guarantee you, there's enough of them out there that we could make a round 3 of this, and maybe your comment will be the one that makes the cut. And until then, ride hard, stay salty, and we'll see you in the next one.